Penny Jane says you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Penny Jane. Now if I can only find where is that record button.
It says to us it's being recorded.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is being recorded. All right, great. So I did push the correct button. Okay, well, tonight, we had a member of the shul who was experiencing a significant issue with Lashon HaRa. He was a victim, and he asked me to not merely teach tonight, but to help him through this difficult situation that he was a victim of, libel. So Lashon HaRa, evil speech, is a gossip, defamation, slander, libel, all of the above, and even more. Would a sin by any other name be as bad or smell as bad, I guess, if I want to be true to Shakespeare? So the idea is that Lashon HaRa is a very, very severe sin. One of the problems, just stop for a second. One of the problems about Lashon HaRa is that it's possible to commit this sin so many times in the course of a day. You know, like, for example, think about it. Eating treif. The worst scenario, you eat treif 3 times a day. That's the worst scenario. But Lashon HaRa, 200 times a day. It's so easy for a person to forget the mitzvah of not speaking Lashon HaRa. And that's why the Chofetz Chaim was so adamant about the seriousness of this particular sin. So, Lashon HaRa, gossip, and the laws of one's place in the world to come. So this is from the Psalm 34. Mi ha'ish ha'chofetz chaim ohev yamin l'rotov. Netzor l'shon chamera usfatecha midaber mirma sumera v'asetov b'kei shalom v'rad fehu. And the translation is very famous. Come ye children, hearken to me, and I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the person that desires life, who loves days in order to see good? It also means who's the person who wants to live a long life? You want to live a long time? Keep your tongue from evil, your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil, do good, and seek peace and pursue it. And that's how you live a long life. Specifically, this verse is the source of the famous title to Rabbi Yosef Meir Kagan. He was known as the Chofetz Chaim, the person who desired life, because he made the war against Lashon HaRa, the battle against gossip, his life's mission. He wrote books about it, he preached about it, he was able to find every single Torah portion, someplace in every single Torah portion, an admonition against gossip, besides the obvious 8. One of the more surprising things about Lashon HaRa, evil speech in Judaism, is that it refers to speech that is true, false speech, libel, slander, and anything else that you can think of, including a form of cursing, using curse words, something else, and fall under a different prohibition. So the whole thing is that this is what Rabbi Jonathan Sachs is an admonition of blessed memory. So the whole idea is that it's very, very serious, that true, false, it doesn't matter. It basically is all the same evil speech. I saved this from a class I gave about 3 years ago. It is only in Israel will you see a campaign, a political campaign, every country. You know, you see Lashon HaRa, lo medaber, don't speak to me. You're about to say gossip? I don't want to hear it. It's a campaign in Israel not to speak gossip, not to talk Lashon HaRa, on buses, on trains, on billboards, everywhere you go. So they once asked the question, do you think it works? And the answer is, if advertisement didn't work, then why does every politician and every shoe company and every cereal company spend billions of dollars on it? So the whole idea was, if you could see a reminder day in, day out, everywhere you look, try not to speak Lashon HaRa. There's a great story about the Chofetz Chaim, who had a student who came to him and said, I studied with you, Rabbi, for many years. You ordained me, and I'm I'm a pulpit rabbi out in the middle of nowhere, and I think I want to resign my commission, and I think I want to return to Radin and start studying again. I'm not fulfilling my role as a rabbi. He goes, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, I teach in the cheder and I lead to the prayers. And the only time I have a class, the only time people show up to a class, because everyone's working so hard, the only time is Shabbos afternoon. Shabbos afternoon at 4:00, I get about 30 men who come to my class. He goes, that's fantastic. He goes, no, Rabbi, they're so tired that they fall asleep. Everyone falls asleep. And if they're not sleeping, they're reading a newspaper. So he goes, that's fantastic. He goes, Rabbi, a whole hour, I'm sitting there, I'm talking, and everyone's sleeping. He goes, don't you understand? A whole hour and not one of them is speaking Lashon HaRa? That's how the Chafetz Chaim was, That's how bad Lashon HaRa is, and that's how important it is to watch your words.
Rabbi,
Yes,
may I mention something?
always Ahuva.
The bus, that's not exactly what it says.
Yeah,
Lashon HaRa lo medaber elai, meaning that's different kind of lo medaber, that it doesn't mean anything to
it doesn't. Oh,
anything for
okay.
you. Your
Thank you.
Lashon HaRa doesn't do anything. It's like,
Thank you. It doesn't mean anything to me, right?
yeah, doesn't touch me.
See, that's why it's so important to have an Israeli in my class to share the nuances of the Hebrew. Okay, so let me return. Thank you, Ahuva. This is one of the most famous stories. This is one of the most famous stories about Lashon HaRa. Forgive me. My computer is so twitchy lately. So it's a very famous story about a man who was gossiping, and after, a typical, person who was gossiping, and he felt bad after a while, and he realized that he was hurting people. So he went to the rabbi, seeking a way to do tshuva, and the rabbi said, it's really simple. You want to do tshuva, you want to repent. So take a feather pillow, cut it open, go to the highest tower in our community, and set the feathers free to the open winds. The man took a feather pillow, he went to the bell tower, he opened up the pillow, and he sent the feathers to the four winds. He comes down and he goes to the rabbi, now what, Rabbi? And he goes, no, now you have to collect every feather and come back to me. So after hours and hours and hours, he went collecting, he comes back and he goes, Rabbi, I'm so sorry, but I'm unable to collect the feathers. And the rabbi said, your words are like the feathers. Once they leave your mouth, you know not where they will go, and you can never retrieve them back again. It is always wiser to guard your tongue and keep your words to yourself. Because Lashon HaRa, it's bad words that go out to the four winds, and there's no way to retract them. Talking about famous Hasidic stories about Lashon HaRa and how reconciliation is very, very difficult. There's a story of a Rav. He was a wealthy rabbi, but he was a rabbi, and people would frequently come to him and borrow money. And the butcher of the town needed to have an advance to purchase a cow so that he could butcher the cow and then sell the meat and make a profit. So he came to the rabbi, and he said to the rabbi, I need 200 kopecks. The rabbi gave him 200 kopecks, and he signed it shit. And the butcher went out and bought the cow, and he slaughtered the meat, and he made a very nice profit, and he came back, and the rabbi walks into the rabbi's office, and the rabbi's studying Talmud. He goes, Rabbi, I want to give you back the 200 kopecks you lent me. He says, yeah, thanks a lot. And he took the envelope and he shoved it into the Talmud, and he was busy studying. He didn't make note of it. He didn't write it down that the money was returned. After 30 days, he went to the butcher, and he said, you owe me 200 kopecks, which is the sum later. He goes, what do you mean I paid you back? He goes, no, you didn't. He goes, yes, I did, Rabbi. I came to your office, I paid you back. He goes, I think I'd remember that. And he went to court, and he was found guilty because no one was going to contradict the famous rabbi. And he had to pay it back. But that's not the worst part, is that the people never believed him anymore. If you can't believe your butcher, you can't trust your butcher, that he paid back the famous rabbi, people stopped coming to him and he went bankrupt. What happens is he could barely make ends meet, and his wife and his children were destitute. And what happened was, months and months later, the rabbi had to answer a question. He grabbed the Talmud out of his library, he opened it up, and there was the envelope full of money. So he ran to the guy and he asked for forgiveness, and he said, what you did is done. No one's going to believe you now. If you were to go and make an announcement that you found the money, people will just say, oh, the rabbi is such a tzaddik, he's so righteous, that he felt bad for me that I'm bankrupt. And no one's going to believe you, and the damage you did is foregone. I'll never be able to recoup. So the rabbi said, there's one way we can fix this. Because how? Because you have an 18-year-old daughter, I have a 20-year-old son. Let's make a shidduch, because when they get married, everyone will know, and believe me, because I would never allow my son to marry the daughter of a thief. And that's how they fixed it. But not every situation of Lashon HaRa, gossip, motzei shem ra, all these different terms, it's very hard to fix. And that's why the rabbis tried to emphasize, well, they do emphasize the importance of don't start, don't do it. You got to be really, really careful. Let's get back to the share. So that's the famous story about Lashon HaRa and how it's very hard to retrieve your words once they've been sent off on the four winds. So in the Torah, it literally says, Lo telech rachil b'amecha, lo tamod al dam recha ani Hashem. Do not be a talebearer among your people. But more importantly, I should have translated the end of the verse, and don't stand on the blood of your friend. And the rabbis explain, what does the two have to tell? It's like killing a person. Al dam recha, it's literally like drawing blood. The classic teaching of leprosy in Parshat Mitzorah is that this affliction is the punishment for Lashon HaRa. We've studied this 1,000 times. The tzara'at, leprosy in the Torah, is not a viral disease. It's not a dermatological disease. It is a reaction to speaking gossip. It's sort of like we had an employee that was a thief. We caught her 36 years ago. We caught her. And one of the things I noticed about her, whenever she was lying, she would break out in hives. And that is the closest thing I can explain, that in ancient times, we were such a holy people, we were such hypersensitive to sin, that gossiping would cause us to break out in leprosy. The Gemara, the plague of leprosy, nega tzora'at, as you can see here in the Hebrew. The gematria is 50 plus C plus 70 plus 90, 270 plus 400 is 883. The plague of leprosy, 883. The verse in the Torah forbidding such a verbalization is lo telech rachil ba'amecha. Do not be a talebearer among your people. Guess what the numeric value is? 883. What are the chances of that? The punishment for violating the 883 prohibition of Lashon HaRa is the 883 affliction of tzara'at. Wait, there's more. The proper way to avoid both the violation and its punishment is with good personality traits, midot tovot. Guess what the gematria of midot tovot is? 883. Wait, there's more. I feel like I'm selling a jinzu knife. And if we can all avoid Lashon HaRa and its punishment by developing these good traits, then tisku legula shlema, we will be worthy of a complete redemption. 883. So what's really amazing about this gematria is that it proves there's a direct correlation between nega tzara'at, leprosy that we learned in the Bible, and the actual sin of gossiping. And the way in Judaism, the way you broke it is the way that you fixed it. So how do you fix the broken 883? Is with midot tovot, with good personality traits. And what happens if you do? Well, we know that the reason why the Mashiach isn't with us is because we don't love each other enough. Sinat chinam. And it is ahavat chinam, baseless love for one another, is what will bring the Mashiach. That means Tisku Legula will be worthy of the redemption, 883, if we have Midot Tovot, if we have good personality traits towards other people. You show love to others, 883. That's the Gematria energy. Let's see, I think I see a question. So Rabbi, is self-deprecating a form of Lashon HaRa or any negative talk about yourself? What about on a professional level? Job references, letters of reference, reviews of employees. So these are excellent questions. In fact, it is so important. I'm going to stop the share again because I want to tell you a famous story about that Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan. He was on a train. I just told this story last week, I think. He was on a train going home to Radin, and he's sitting in a train compartment, and a man is sitting next to him, and he starts a conversation. He goes, "Where do you go?" "I'm going home to Radin." He goes, "Oh, really? What are you going?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to visit the saintly Chafetz Chaim, the greatest leader of our generation." And it was him, the Chafetz Chaim. And he goes, "The Chafetz Chaim, it's not so special." And the man got so angry at him that he stood up, walked over to the Chafetz Chaim, and he slapped him. He said, "Don't you ever talk about the Chafetz Chaim like that." He sat down. They get off the train. The Chafetz Chaim goes to the yeshiva. Man checks into his hotel. And then he goes to see the Chafetz Chaim. And he goes to the Gabbai. He goes, "My name is so-and-so. I'm here. I have an appointment to see the Chafetz Chaim." And he walked into the Chafetz Chaim's office. He goes, "Oh my God!" Oh, he figured it out. He had slapped the Chafetz Chaim. And he literally went down on his knees and he begged the Chafetz Chaim for mechila, for forgiveness. And the Chafetz Chaim lifted him up and he goes, No, you're 100% right. You're not even allowed to talk Lashon HaRa about yourself. So that's the first question. It's an excellent question, Steve. The second question is about, on a professional level, job references, letters of reference, and reviews of employees. Again, excellent question. So I'm going to teach this to you through an actual act that happened to us here at Temple Menorah. A number.
You can't even think Lashon HaRa.
Right.
Stupid.
Right. This is true. I want to tell you what happened at our shul, and I went to Rabbi Zweig, Rabbi Yochanan Zweig, may he live and be well, one of the greatest mind of our generation, one of the greatest leaders of North America. So what happened was we had an employee who was stealing. She was an early childhood teacher, and she was a team teacher, and things were disappearing. We had, for example, doesn't sound like a lot now, but back then it was a big thing. We had a television with a CD player in it, and children would watch educational CDs. It disappeared. We had 2 different cassette decks with music that children disappeared. We had a karaoke machine where the kids would sing, and it disappeared. Little things, $100 here, $150 there. And then one day, a teacher comes to me, the team teacher, and she says, "Rabbi, I have a serious problem." It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I said, "What happened? What's going on?" She goes, "This morning, my husband gave me, I needed money because I'm going shopping afterwards. I needed cash. And this morning, my husband gave me, I had a 10 and a 20. My husband gave me a $100 bill, and I gave him the 20. I put it in my purse. I came to school, and 45 minutes ago, we were taking the kids downstairs to play, and I left my purse in the room, and my team teacher stayed in the room. She came down like 10 minutes later. I went upstairs afterwards with the children, and I saw my purse had been moved. I opened it up, and the $100 bill is missing, and only the 10 and the 5 is left. I knew it was there. I made sure it was there, and there's no doubt in my mind that she stole it. So I went and I spoke to the early childhood director, and the early childhood director said, "No one's that room. There's no way anyone else went in that room." So I brought the purse to my office, and I wrapped it in plastic wrap. And then I called the teacher into my office, and the teacher came and she saw the purse, and I could see that she was guilty. I could tell. So I said to her, "When you registered to teach here, federal law, we took your fingerprints. This someone took $100 bill from this purse, and you're the only person who could have taken it. So you have two choices. Either you confess and I won't press charges, or you don't confess and we're going to call the police and you're going to have your fingerprints taken and we'll prove that you, and then not only will you be fired, but you will press charges for all the things that you stole. She starts crying and she admitted she stole everything. So I walked her back to her room. She gave up her keys, and we escorted her off the property. Now, fast forward about 2 months later, I get a phone call from a Jewish institution asking me, can you imagine this? She put me down as a reference. So now I'm in a quandary. She put me down as a reference, and the person is a friend of, well, we're friendly, we're good friends. Grew up in Miami Beach, we all knew each other. So I had to know, here's my quandary. If I tell him the truth that she's a thief, she is an admitted thief, isn't that Lashon HaRa? If I don't tell him the truth, then am I not also guilty of a sin called Lifnei Iver Al Titen Michshol? Before the blind, do not put a stumbling block. So according to traditional Judaism, if I know something really, really dangerous and I don't inform someone, then I am guilty of putting a stumbling block in front of the blind. So I called Rabbi Yochanan Zweig, you should live and be well. And Rabbi Zweig said, the difference between Lashon HaRa and this situation is what your motivation is. If your motivation is to get revenge and to teach her a lesson, and I'm gonna get back for all the stuff, I'm gonna tell the truth. Oh, she's a thief, you can't hire her. Then that's Lashon HaRa. But if your motivation is to protect the Jewish institution from hiring someone who has a history of stealing, and there's no reason why to think that she wouldn't do it again, then it's not Lashon HaRa. And then if you don't tell a person that, then it's Lifnei Iver, you're actually doing that institution danger, doing them damage, actually. So how did I answer? Rabbi Zweig gave me a series of words I can respond. And the first thing I asked the person, I go, what exactly will be this person's job? She'll be walking students back and forth, and she'll be in charge. Is she in charge of fundraising, or is she going to be in charge of any collecting funds? And I said, no. Well, then I think you can hire her. Now, I gave enough information truthfully and limited her exposure to the possibility of stealing. I mean, she can steal a television again, but they ended up hiring her, and she ended her career there. Let's just say that. Now, I will tell you that I've been the victim of the opposite side. I hired an employee. I called the rabbi in another town, and the rabbi down and out lied to me and said, I don't know much about them. I don't have anything to say about them. You have to talk to my assistant rabbi who worked with them more closely. So I spoke to the assistant rabbi, and he goes, what are you talking about? I'm only here 3 months. I think I met him twice. Why did the rabbi say that? He goes, well, what kind of employee was he? He goes, I really don't know. He was already given notice, and all right, so the search committee hired this person, and later we found out he was fired because for due reasons, for rightful reasons. And the rabbi knew about it because the senior rabbi was the one who fired him. But he withheld that information. And that employee had the same exact issues in our synagogue that they had in their previous employment. And he withheld the information, and he did a lot of damage to my institution. Now, the question is, if he would have told me the truth, would that have been Lashon HaRa? Again, it depends on what his motivation was. If his motivation was to, by the way, I spoke to someone in that community afterwards and said, oh, there was part of the agreement when they left was that we wouldn't say anything about their cause, and then we didn't have to give him severance. So it was worth $20,000 to us not to disclose his reasons for being fired. So that made it even worse to me. That means for a lousy $20,000, they were willing to screw another synagogue rather than tell me the truth. So
Rabbi, as an employer of tens of people, there are certain things that you learn to say and not say. And so somebody who has been fired for cause, you say, I can only certify that the person has been working here from this date to that date. Were they a good employee? I can only certify that the person has been employed here from this date to that date. And that's what that rabbi was telling you. Basically, that's what the first rabbi was telling you, which is
Well,
that. So and I understand it's a little different because you know somebody personally, but as somebody involved in hiring and firing people, that's what your lawyers, there are certain things that you're allowed to say and certain things you're not allowed to say. So anyway.
yeah, but I was much younger. It was 20 years ago, and I didn't think that a rabbi would have, played that card. But you're right.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're asked a question about the integrity and scruples of someone that you might be hiring, isn't it incumbent upon you to be honest and to say, well, you don't have to go into detail, but you have to say, there have been issues. And if you don't, and then that person is hired, it's doing a disservice to you. And
So I can tell you that employee did us a lot of damage.
Yeah.
How much damage? Just say he did a lot of damage. It was really, we're lucky that we were able to manage the extent, but it wasn't a pleasant 2 years. In the last 3, 4, and then he screwed us even after he left, and that's another story. But my point is that you're right, T. I think that we walk a very difficult line where we're tightrope walking. One side is Lashon HaRa, one side is halachically, the right thing to do, morally and ethically. And that's why Rabbi is why you should live and be well. Emphasize, search your heart and make up your mind. Are you doing it for the right reasons? And then I still didn't point a picture like, don't hire them, she's a thief. Whereas I said, she'll do a very good job at that. She'll be very good at that. And I didn't say.
Rabbi, but that person really has stolen, has done damage. As they were saying before, there should be a way. You don't want to say, okay, but say, listen, there have been issues, and maybe you can find somebody else to occupy the position or something like that. Without saying he's a thief,
Can't
but
do.
not exposing the other institution to the same situation like you guys were.
Right.
Isaac and I had this situation also, actually, with a rabbi, and when Isaac was called for reference, he said he just told them if he had applied here, I would not find it comfortable hiring.
Right.
So
I think Stacy wanted to say something.
Yeah, the problem is in this day of easy litigation, if you say somebody was a thief, there was no charge against them, they weren't proven, et cetera, and you actually let this person get off, then you could be accused of defamation and inhibiting her ability to earn a living, and then you could be sued by her attorney. So that's why there's the moral and because it comes in medical the same thing. I know somebody who knows somebody wants my honest opinion, but you still have to be very careful. So
Right.
we
It's
get
actually,
arrested.
I think we have some lawyers here, so they'll clarify. I think it's called fiduciary interference, where I said something to keep a person from getting a job. So you're right. And these are things. But halachically, what we really want to emphasize is that from a Jewish perspective, search your heart and make a decision on how to answer in a way where you are not breaking Jewish law, but more so you're not destroying a person's life.
Right.
So these are excellent questions. So let's get to the next slide. Let's see. Okay, good. So if the priest sees that the leper, this is directly from the Torah, but when a person got leprosy, he talked Lashon HaRa, he got leprosy. If the priest sees, he comes to a priest, he has to come to a Kohen, and the Kohen makes, why a Kohen? Because it's not a medical issue, it's a spiritual issue. If the priest sees that the leper has been healed of the scaly affliction, the priest shall order 2 live birds, cedar wood, crimson stuff, and hyssop to be brought for the one to be purified. They burn it and they spritz him, and here's a wood carving of the famous one bird is set free and one bird is slaughtered, and then the mixture is sprinkled on the person, on his thumb, on his toe, etc. The cause of leprosy is gossiping, as we discussed. The cure is bringing of 2 birds. Even the rich have to bring 2 birds. They don't bring 2 cows, they don't bring 2 bulls, they don't bring 2 sheep. Everyone brings these 2 birds. Why birds? Birds are known for their chattering, mindless, senseless, repetitive chattering that is considered annoying by most people. Such is gossiping. It is mindless, destructive, and the sign of a small mind and an impure heart. Among terms of criticism in English of useless speech is chatterbox, one who expresses senseless, endless, mindless talk like a bird. In Judaism, the way you broke something is the way that you fix it. If the sin was caused by mindless bird-like chattering, the remedy is realized through the sacrifice of 2 birds, through this process. So the whole idea is, like, by the way, outside, they're back. They're back! The birds. We have a problem with parrots in a tree on our property. For a number of years, they were gone. I don't know what happened, but now it's wintertime, they're back. I don't know where they were, but they used to come every winter. And I have to tell you, there are times when the cacophony of these birds is mind-wrenching. If it was up to me, I'd throw firecrackers at them or something, but I know that doesn't work anymore. Someone told me to put up an owl. You can buy them at Home Depot, and that should keep them away. If it doesn't get better, I'm going to do it, because even when I'm awake, even when the air conditioner is on, the noise is crazy. I was thinking Lashon HaRa, birds chattering. You are what you speak. Not so much what you are, what you eat, but what you speak. Rambam wrote in this letter, in the Garrett, a letter to his son, know that God graced his children with the power of speech in his love for them over all the other creatures. It enables one to become wise, to praise and glorify God, to tell of his wonders with one's speech and mouth. It is unthinkable that a person should substitute good with bad and speak vulgar language, lies, slander, and empty words, or to not keep one's word. That's an additional level, not keeping your word. These are astounding sins which enslave the soul to the body. One should, in fact, be enslaving one's body to his soul. This is the key to his freedom both in this world and the world to come. Now, that's the end of Rambam, but based on what Rambam said, 900 years ago, listen what Gandhi said. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Very important, very deep thought there. I agree in the correlation between them. I want to, again, forgive me, but I'm going to stop the share for just a second. And if you've ever been in my office, on my desk, I have a swear box. It's a very nice wood box, very, very nice. And if you swear in front of me, it's $1. If you swear a second time, it's 2. And then the third time it's 4, then 8, then 16, and 32. I'm thinking of getting a gossip box. If you gossip to me, it's going to be the same punishment. The idea is that I got to teach people to stop doing it. So I'll give you an example. Why, by the way, for many of you, I'm looking around this room, and many of you have known me for at least 36 years. Some of you have known me a lot more. So you know that I would say I was about in my early 20s. I was at Yeshiva University, and I made up my mind I was going to stop using curse words. It's called nivel peh. And what happened was one of my rabbis taught me, actually it was the Rosh Yeshiva taught me, and he said, you know, it's physics. The human body, energy comes into our body. Sound energy comes into our ears. Light energy comes into our eyes. Aromatic smells, particles come into our nose. Everything comes into our bodies. The only things that we send out is our voice. The only sound, it's sound energy. We produce it and it comes out of our body. That means the sound is a product of our neshama. What does that mean? Well, you know how sounds are made? We push air, ruach, over our vocal cords, and by tightening our vocal cords in a certain way, and by manipulating the sound as it comes over our lips, our tongues, and our teeth, we form letters and consonants, vowels and words. So it's our innermost spirit, our ruach, that we project forward. And if we use our bodies to manipulate the essence of our being, our neshama, our spirit, into evil words, then we're creating evil, and that affects us. It's the only thing that we produce, that we project, is sound energy. And that's why evil words, gossip, swear words, etc., is so bad. It affects not only the people who hear it, but it also affects the person who says it. Unfortunately, I misplaced a slide. I noticed it at about 6:45 and I can't find it. I will find it eventually. This is a slide I'm going to share with you. It is a very famous teaching and it makes tremendous sense. I'm going to quote from Leviticus chapter 18. Do not put a stumbling block in front of the blind, and do not curse the deaf. Now, the first half of the verse makes perfect sense. It's pure logic. Do not put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. The person's blind and they're walking in front of them. So what do? You put the ottoman in front of them. Ha ha ha, they fall. No, do not put a stumbling block in front of the blind. Then the next part of the verse is, and don't curse the deaf. But why can't you curse the deaf? They can't hear you. You're not doing them any damage. Let's say a deaf person, let's say they can read your lips, but they turn around. Their back is to you. So curse them out. Use bad words. Curse them. No, but they can't hear you. It's not like hurting a blind person by putting a stumbling block. The answer is, it's not that you're hurting them. When you expound negative energy out of your body, it's affecting you. It's going to do damage to you. It's going to spiritually do damage. And that's why the rabbis explain Lashon HaRa is so bad. All the different lies, libel, slander, Lashon HaRa, gossiping, using bad words, it's all turning your energy from your body into negative things, into hurtful, painful things. And it's wrong. So now that we understand the spiritual aspect of it, let's see if we can get back. So this is a beautiful concept, purity of speech in the Torah. In the Torah portion of Noach, when God instructs Noah to gather all the animals into the ark, he describes the non-kosher animals as Umin ha-behema asher enenu tahara, and of the beasts that are not clean. The Talmud points out that the Torah uses 8 extra letters in this description, since it could have said hatme'ah, behema hatme'ah, the Hebrew somehow got flipped. The impure animals. The reason the Torah chose to say not tahor rather than tameh is to impart a lesson to us that we should use speech that is pure and clean. I know I taught it to you before over the last couple of months. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, this was his way of life. For example, he did not allow people in English to use the word deadline. A person came to him because they were building a synagogue, a community, and he was coming to a deadline. He kept on using the word deadline. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory interrupted him and said, don't say deadline, say due date. Deadline literally means that. If you don't do it, you're dead. A due date is when a woman is anticipating giving birth. Say due date. You also wouldn't allow people to call a hospital Beit Cholim. It was instead called a Beit Refuah, a place of healing. So that being said, in the Torah, it should say, if the Torah wants to be balanced, it should be bring in 2 by 2, the pure animals and the impure animals. But it does, the Torah doesn't want to say, use a negative word. So it says the pure animals and the animals that aren't pure. It's like, instead of saying the smart students and the stupid students, the smart students and the genius students and the ones who aren't geniuses. There's a nuance about not being negative. There's several similar examples in the Torah where the Torah uses extra words in order to speak in a holy language. For example, Ki yevecha ish asher lo yeh tahor. If there is among you a man who is not holy, not clean, okay? Instead of saying ish tameh, again, I'm sorry, but the Hebrew got, impure man, they add extra 10 letters so that they would rather not talk negative and saying the person is unclean. They say he's just not clean. It's a nuance of trying to be positive and not being negative. Ki amar mikrahu bilti tahor kilo tahor. For he thought it is an incident. He is not clean, for he is not clean. So again, all these extra words and letters is trying to get around pigeonholing a person for life, saying, oh, he's a negative. No, he's just like right now, it's not that he's dirty, it's just that he's not clean. Instead of tameh, who, he is impure, in this case, the Torah is using 16 extra letters to say, it's not that he's impure, it's just that he's not pure. And again, these are Torah attitudes that we should go out of our way to not think, as Mike Epstein, the Torah is very emphatic. We shouldn't even think negative thoughts, let alone speak them or embody them. Let's do our best to think and use words and expressions that are not judgmental and not negative, and do our best to be positive. There are 10 practical guides for positive speech. And this is right out of there's a whole website called the Chesed Club, and they do their best to encourage and to teach people to slowly change their attitudes about Lashon HaRa. So the first one is, let me just check the time. Someone's been texting me like crazy for the last 35 minutes. Okay, so we're good. Do not express damaging or derogatory information about someone that might cause them physical, psychological, or financial harm, even if it is true and deserved. I put it in red because that's the hardest part. They deserve it. It's true. No, doesn't matter. Promote people's well-being. When in doubt, don't speak out. And I think that's what the legal situation is also, as Stacy shared. When in doubt, don't speak out. But what happens if you know for a fact? Well, maybe we should be, maybe our wings should be clipped. Like an, NDA, is that what a non-disclosure? Maybe there is some good to that. If we're gonna do damage, be kind to yourself. Speaking badly, even about yourself, is unethical. Self-deprecating humor included. I'm guilty. Yeah, but it's true. Yeah, but even if it doesn't matter, you gotta, actually, yeah, I do it a lot. Self-deprecating humor. I don't have a problem with it, but remember the shul has problems with it. And keeps on encouraging me not to do it. So I'll try not to do it. But, you know, I'm a very slow learner. What can I tell? Oh, you see, I just did it again. Oh, no. Is anyone laughing? Okay, I was just checking. Don't listen to gossip. If you can't change the direction of the conversation, it's advisable to leave. So I want to tell you 2 stories about that. First one is the Chofetz Chaim, the one who led the movement against gossip. He trained himself to be a narcoleptic. And why? Because when you talk Lashon HaRa, you sin, the person who hears it sins, and the person you're talking about sins. Because they did something bad that you're talking bad about them. So as soon as you started talking Lashon HaRa to the Chofetz Chaim, he'd fall asleep right in front of you. Now, I'm not sure he really fell asleep, but this rumor started that if you talk Lashon HaRa to the Chofetz Chaim, he would fall asleep. Why? Because if he's sleeping, then he doesn't hear it. You're not sinning, he's not sinning, and the person you're talking about isn't sinning. So can you imagine if you're in a meeting with the Chofetz Chaim and you're sharing some important information, and all of a sudden, he has a narcoleptic fit and he falls asleep? So the answer was like, it's his way of telling you, guess what you just did? You're about to speak Lashon HaRa. That's my opinion. I don't think he taught himself to be narcoleptic. However, I'm going to tell you a true story. I was a young rabbi, and it was the 2nd or 3rd time I met Rabbi Learfield. Rabbi Lehrman, Rabbi Irving Lehrman, the famous rabbi. He was known as the Jewish Pope, and he was the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel. To give you an idea what his synagogue was like in the 50s, the 60s, and even the 70s, on Friday nights, there was a bank line up and down the street to get into Temple Emmanuel. Members would walk in the front door, find seats, and if at 8 o'clock at night there were any seats left, people in the bank line would be allowed into the synagogue. That's how great his synagogue was. So it was in the definitely the mid to late 1980s, the 2nd or 3rd time I met Rabbi Lehrman, and I was with a group of rabbis and we were schmoozing with him. And I even remember who they were about to talk about, because it was the talk of the whole convention. A particular rabbi, he accepted 3 different jobs. He was changing positions, and he interviewed in 3 synagogues, accepted the first, interviewed at the second one, accepted that one, and then interviewed at the third one. And then he was playing them against each other, see which one gave him the most money, and he got caught. And it was a bad situation. So about 4 or 5 of us, Rabbi Lehrman, we all went over, we said hello. And someone said, Rabbi Lehrman, did you hear what Rabbi so-and-so? And he goes, that reminds me of a story. Once upon a time, and he starts telling us this story, had nothing to do with what we were about to talk about. It was a great Torah story, but nothing whatsoever to do. And then he walked away. Gentlemen, thank you. Oh, so good to see you all. And he walks away. And afterwards, I'll never forget, it was Ed Farber. He goes, you know what he did? He goes, no, what was that? He goes, he didn't want to hear Lashon HaRa. That was Rabbi Lehrman. It's one of my favorite stories. And I was there. I was a party to that. I wasn't the one talking gossip. I wasn't. But I was about to be a party to it. And by the way, we're going to learn in a second, that's one of the sins. Not stopping it. Okay, so let's get back. I think I saw some questions. I kind of missed them, but okay, we'll get back to them. Don't listen to gossip. If you can't change the direction of the conversation, it's advisable to leave. If you inadvertently hear damaging information, you should believe that it is not true. Dan kol adam b'kaf zechut, we learn in Pirkei Avot, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Always give there it is, and focus on the positive. Words spoken can't be erased. Think before you speak, especially if you are angry, hurt, or jealous. Use kind and supportive words with your children and spouse whenever possible. Harsh words can cause irreparable harm, as can speaking derogatorily to others about the ones you love most. It is not only permitted but required to warn a person about potential harm. For example, that a potential business partner has repeated record of embezzlement. So that's where you draw the line when you're allowed to share a person's history of dangerous situation. I think I have one more. I love this story. So the great Rabbi Achia ibn Pakuda, in his seminal work on proper behavior, Chavot HaLevavot, the duties of the heart, relates that a pious man and his students once passed an extremely foul-smelling carcass of a dog. The students said to him, "How foul-smelling is this carcass?" He answered them, "How white are its teeth?" Obviously, this pious man wanted to train his disciples only to speak positively and use refined language. Find something good. I hear that my father used to say, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything. As compared to the Yiddish saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, just say it in Yiddish. I think I saw one or two people smile, okay. In Chavot HaLevavot, the duties of the heart, it concludes, if it is wrong to speak in negative terms about a dead dog, how much more so should one be careful not to speak negatively about one's living fellow human beings? And if it is commendable to praise the carcass of a dead dog for its white teeth, all the more so is it an obligation to praise a human being who can think and reason. Not to curse a troublemaker? The Talmud advises that one should not utter a curse against another person, even if that person is causing them a lot of trouble. Okay, Azoy. I have to tell you that an area where Lashon HaRa is frequently overguarded and is an issue is in the Shidduch world. Does everyone know what the Shidduch world is? Ahuva's going like this.
Yes, yes.
Liliana, yeah. So this is a real serious problem where many a shidduch has been ruined by someone. A shidduch is when you get, in the Orthodox world, it's the equivalent of a matchmaker. It's not just only one person, sometimes it's families, sometimes it's friends, some people, depending on how ultra strict your community is. There's also so the whole idea is that I know of many shidduchim that were terminated for the wrong reasons, where a person gave misinformation unknowingly that was wrong. And it caused not only that young man not to get married to that woman, but the word went like wildfire through the community, questioning if he would be a good choice to be a son-in-law. We also know of a situation in Israel that was finally rectified with a blood test. What does that mean? That a family had a child with Down syndrome, and there was, by marriage, a cousin with Down syndrome. And when the young boy went for its shidduch, the family called one of the teachers, and the teacher said, "You should know that there are two members of the family that has Down syndrome. One was, yes, a biological sibling, but the other one wasn't even biological. It was a relative by marriage. It was coincidence." And this young rabbi, he wasn't a rabbi yet, he couldn't get a shidduch because everyone said, don't marry him, it's genetic. They have Down syndrome in the family. And, so what happened was they actually did 23andMe to prove that he wasn't related to the other family biologically. Obviously, his sibling has Down syndrome. But it was a real problem. It's a real problem. And that's how a teacher can ruin a student's life. Lashon HaRa, wasn't careful about what he said. and similar things of that nature. So it's dangerous. We got to be careful. We got to be careful what we say, what we do.
Rabbi,
Yes.
about cursing, can you curse the enemies of Israel? Can you curse us?
Yeah. Actually, no, you really shouldn't. Remember, you know why? Because listen, we're not like them. You know, I was joking when I said, yeah, sure. No, we really don't. So let me explain to you. We're not like them. Okay? Let me tell you something. There were a couple of riots in Israel over the last 14 months in front of hospitals. Do you know why? Does anyone know why? Because we were treating terrorists.
No,
There were riots.
they have terrorists sitting in the same department or same floor with soldiers and
I have to tell you, I would treat them. And you know why I would treat them? Because we're not like them. When we start letting a person die from their wounds on the battlefield, then we're just like them. Then we're evil. Or if we walk over to a wounded, terrorist and we shoot them in the head, then we're just like them. We don't do that. That's not our way. So they curse us, we don't curse them. So I'll tell you another story that's relative to this. In Talmudic times, there was a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Meir, and his wife Bruria was probably smarter than him. She was a great mind. And what happened was he was walking home, and he was the victim of being bullied by bullies in the neighborhood. Listim, and they were just bad people. And he came home and he started invoking scripture to curse them. And she said, instead of cursing them that they should die, why don't you, instead of praying that they should die, that's the correct term, instead of praying that they should die, why don't you pray that they do tshuva and repent and become good people? After all, the verse says, Itamo chataim min haaretz urushaim od kitavo. It says, King David wrote, let us pray that evil stops from the world and evil people will desist. Pray that evil people stop doing evil, because then what happens? If they stop doing evil, you've changed them. They've done tshuva. They've become good people. So instead of praying that they die, pray that they should become good people.
But Rabbi, even on Shabbat, when we have all these losses of these young soldiers, that it breaks my heart and everybody's heart. And you say that prayer that Hashem should have vengeance. You say it every Saturday.
Not vengeance. That we silence them from the earth. There's a difference. We don't pray for vengeance. We pray that God will fight with us and for us against our enemies. But we don't pray for, maybe I'll check the translation. You're right. I got to check the translation.
Rabbi. It's nekama.
And honestly, I thought that if the
You're
prayer
blood, but not them.
avenged their deaths. That's what I thought that the prayer meant.
You're right. Let me check into it.
Also, Rabbi, when we speak about Hitler and we say Machshmu, but then he's dead already, so it's just that his name should be erased, that nobody would remember his name.
And Rabbi, we had a briefing by a general who was going back into Gaza with 20,000 soldiers. And he said he had a whole discussion about the purity of arms and the IDF. And he talked about how you give an 18-year-old a gun, and if they think the gun is for revenge or whatever, that's not correct. The gun is to reduce the threat to the Jewish people. And therefore, if you go up for revenge, then you are not an army, you're not an IDF, you are a gang. So I think it sort of goes along to what you're saying. That
Yes.
Yeah.
But Rabbi,
Yes.
I also started praying in one way, and then after all of this, I pray every night to Hashem to protect Israel from its enemies, turning their hatred into understanding, goodwill, and peace. Hoping that, they will stop hating us and we can reach
Yeah.
peace.
Where did you read that from?
No, I just created that for me to pray every night.
Oh, gorgeous, beautiful. Thank you. That's really special. T, and then I want to answer. There's a series of questions. I'm not sure if everyone gets the questions or maybe just to me. Yes, it's direct to me, but go ahead.
What Stacy said, we can't celebrate their death either, the way they celebrate our death, because then we're just as brutal and heartless as they are.
Absolutely. And I know I've taught this before, but we do not, every country in the world has a VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, May 1945. They have VJ, Victory in Japan Day. We had originally Armistice Day, celebrating our victory over our enemies. 6-Day War, there's a day of celebration, but not for the war. It's Yom Yerushalayim. On the 3rd day of the war, we reunited Jerusalem. On the 6th day of the war, we were victorious. We don't celebrate the 6th day. We don't celebrate the victory. We celebrate the unification of Jerusalem on the 3rd day. Because we're not like them. We're not like the rest of the world. I'm sorry, we're not. And we shouldn't be. So let me answer all these questions. There's quite a, without getting political, what about Lashon HaRa in politics and government? I can tell you that it's sickening. We've become used to it and desensitized to it. It's excessive, and it's not just politics and government. It's on the radio, it's online, it's on television, it's in newscasts. It's out and out Lashon HaRa. I can tell you my personal observation is that in Mideast reporting, the lies about Israel is under the rubric of Lashon HaRa. It is lies. They know it's lies. It's one-sided, and it's Lashon HaRa. And one of the reasons, by the way, do you remember there'd be, for example, I forgot the name of the little boy. There was a shootout in Gaza, and a 10-year-old boy was shot, and there was video of it, and Israel got damnation for being the ones who shot and killed him. And the Gazan, they were all over it. Israelis murdered a 10-year-old boy. They shot him in the head. Oh, yeah, in Israel. And for about 3 months, it was horrible. And how did Israel respond? We'll make a comment after the investigation. 5 months later, Israel said, well, we investigated and we're innocent. No, it was friendly fire. He was killed by an Arab. Okay, nobody believed us. And then 3 months after that, a French television studio did the research and proved that it really was the Arabs. But for 9 months, the Lashon HaRa, that we were baby killers. Okay, under these guidelines, how about someone speak about a coworker or employee or anyone when trying to find a solution to a problem caused by said person? It's problematic. I would like to think that when you evaluate an employee, that it's the benefit, we're trying to do what's best for an institution, that we're trying to do what's best for the overall health and well-being of the community, or for the people that we work for. And ultimately, if you do it properly, then it's also ultimately for the benefit of the person who's having these problems. Again, the secret to differentiate between Lashon HaRa and Lifnei Iver is your motivation. If our goal is to make things better, then it's not Lashon HaRa. Is prohibition of Lashon HaRa only about those alive? Oh, excellent question. Steve asked the question. Is prohibition about Lashon HaRa only about those alive? The answer is no. Not only can you talk Lashon HaRa about yourself, that's the story of the Chofetz Chaim who got slapped, but you can also talk Lashon HaRa about the dead. That's one of the reasons why every year during the high holiday period, you're supposed to go to the cemetery and ask forgiveness from your parents, but they're dead. You should only have to ask forgiveness from your parents the first year after they died. After that, they're not here. How did you insult them? How did you? And the answer is, how did you talk Lashon HaRa about them? And the answer is very simple. You're about to tell a story about your father or your mother, and you think it's a funny story, but it's not. It's insulting. Or, you just out and out tell a story that puts your parents in a bad light. But they're dead. That's why every year you have to go to the cemetery and ask for forgiveness. Well, I hope you enjoyed class. I didn't finish. I got about almost a little bit more than halfway through. We have some other additional interesting classes and slides for it. So God willing, next week we'll have a quick class and I'll be able to finish the subject matter on Lashon HaRa. So at one point we had 24 attendees, I think, so that was really good. I'm very happy that Lashon HaRa didn't turn people off, just the opposite. I think we had a good class and a good number of people. So have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Class.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. Laila Tov, everyone.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Hello, favorite sister that lives in New York. Okay, Laila Tov, everyone.
Lila Tov, Elliot. Great
Hey.
lesson.
Oh, you
Thank
know
you,
what?
Al.
If you want, I can meet you in this room and we could talk to each other and you could see me. Do you have a camera with me?
I could, but I think there's still several people who are part of the meeting.
Well, what I can do is, that's right, I'm the rabbi. I can kick them out. I know how to do it. Oh my gosh, I had actually more people than I thought. Hold on, one more. Okay, we're all alone.
Are you not recording?
Oh my gosh, you're right. Let me see. You know what? I don't know how to stop the recording part. Although I'm a host tools, suspend, remove participant, lock meeting, enable waiting room, hide profiles.
Elliot, maybe I'll just give you a call.
No, I want to see you. Let's see if I can figure out how do I end audio video. This is really, they upgraded it, apps more. Pause, stop recording. I found it. Are you sure you want to stop recording the